All right, so for the better part of a century, we're talking 70 years, the US and Iran have been caught in this shadow war. Sanctions, proxy fights, secret ops. But what happens when the lights come on? When all that hidden conflict bursts out into the open? Well, that's what we're going to break down today.
But before we dig into how we got here, I want you to imagine something with me. Let's just game this out. How could this whole thing actually explode? We're going to walk through one terrifyingly plausible scenario, a chain reaction that could kick off in the very near future. So the first domino falls, and it's something we've all seen before, right? High-stakes diplomacy. A new administration in the White House draws a line in the sand. They give Iran an ultimatum. You have 60 days to completely shut down your nuclear program, period. Talks start, but they go nowhere, fast. Iran digs in its heels, refusing to give up everything, and that 60-day clock, it just runs out.
Okay, so diplomacy is off the table. What's next? The US makes a huge move, a massive, preemptive strike. The thinking behind it is pretty straightforward, almost clinical. Cut off the head of the snake, and the body will die. US intelligence gets a tip, a big one. The entire Iranian leadership is meeting in one place, and just like that, the strike is given the green light.
But here's the thing, Iran saw this coming. They had a playbook for this exact nightmare scenario. It's called the Mosaic Doctrine, and they've been planning it for years. The whole idea is to decentralize their command structure. So instead of chaos when the leadership is gone, something else happens. 31 different regional commanders are instantly authorized to act on their own. So the war doesn't end. Oh no, it goes from a single strike to a full-blown regional explosion.
So, how in the world did we get to this point? A point where a scenario like that feels, well, not just possible, but plausible. To really get what's happening today, the headlines, the nuclear tension, all of it, we've got to go back, way back. Over 70 years, in fact.
You see, the real story here, the root of this whole conflict, it doesn't start with a bang, it doesn't start with a revolution, it starts with something buried deep in the ground, oil. And it all goes back to one decision that planted the seed of deep, deep mistrust of the West right in the heart of Iran.
Okay, so let's walk through this. It all kicks off in 1951. Iran actually has a democratically elected prime minister, a guy named Mossadegh, and he has this kind of radical idea. Iran's oil should probably benefit Iranians. Crazy, right? Well, this was a huge problem for Great Britain, who was getting rich off that oil. So what happens? Just 2 years later, the CIA and MI6 team up, they orchestrate a coup, and poof, Mossadegh is gone. In his place, they reinstall the Shah, a monarch who's much, much friendlier to Western oil companies. And that one move, right there, it basically set the stage for everything, and I mean everything that came after.
And this is the part you really have to understand. For tons of Iranians, this wasn't just some abstract political move. It felt like a gut punch, a total betrayal. Here's America, the supposed beacon of democracy, and it just helped overthrow their democratically elected leader. Why? To get their hands on Iran's oil. That feeling of resentment, it didn't go away. It just simmered under the surface for decades until it finally exploded in the 1979 Islamic Revolution.
Okay, let's fast forward a bit to the 1970s because another massive piece of this puzzle is about to fall into place. While all this is brewing in Iran, leading up to the revolution, something huge is happening on the world stage. The entire global financial system is being rewritten, and this shift is going to put the US and the new Iran on a collision course that they are still on to this day.
So here's what happened. In 1971, President Nixon makes a world-changing decision. He takes the US dollar off the gold standard. Now, what that means is the dollar is no longer backed by a physical thing. So all of a sudden, the US has a big problem. How do we make sure the whole world still wants and needs our currency? The answer they came up with was brilliant in a way. It was oil. I mean, the entire planet runs on the stuff. And where does most of it come from? The Middle East.
And this created the system we see here, what's called the petrodollar system. The US basically makes a deal, with Saudi Arabia being the key player. And the deal is incredibly simple but powerful. Step 1. From now on, all major oil sales are priced in US dollars. That means if any country on Earth wants to buy oil, they first have to buy dollars. Bam! Instant, constant, global demand for US currency. Step 3. What do the oil-rich countries do with all those billions of dollars? They recycle them by investing them back into the US economy, buying up US government bonds. And in return, for playing ball, the US provides them with military protection. It's a perfect loop.
And here's the bottom line. This system is what makes the US dollar the world's undisputed reserve currency. It's what helps fund America's massive military. And it means that if any country, think Saddam Hussein's Iraq or Gaddafi's Libya, gets the bright idea to try and sell their oil for, say, euros or any other currency, well, they're not just messing with an economic policy. No, they are directly threatening the very foundation of American power on the global stage. And that's a line you don't cross.
Which brings us right back to the modern day, to this high-stakes chess match. Now think about it from Iran's perspective. After the revolution, they are fundamentally opposed to this petrodollar system. They're surrounded by US allies who are part of that system. So for them, a nuclear program, it's not just an offensive weapon, it's viewed as the ultimate insurance policy. It's their guarantee for survival.
I mean, the two sides are living in completely different realities on this. From the US point of view, a nuclear Iran is a disaster. It's an existential threat to allies like Israel and Saudi Arabia, and it's a threat to that whole financial order we just talked about. But Iran? They look around, they see what happened to guys like Saddam Hussein or Muammar Gaddafi, leaders who gave up their nuclear ambitions, and they draw a very different conclusion. The only thing that can truly protect them from a US-led regime change is having the bomb.
And this chart right here really shows you how close to the edge we are. Look, under that 2015 nuclear deal, Iran was capped at 3.67% uranium enrichment. That's fine for nuclear power, but it's useless for a bomb. But then, in 2018, the US pulled out of the deal. And what did Iran do? They hit the accelerator. Now they're enriching up to 60% purity. And weapons grade? That's 90%. They are just a stone's throw away.
In fact, it's gotten so serious that as of early 2023, the world's nuclear watchdog said that Iran's breakout time, that's the time it would take them to get enough material for just one bomb, is down to only 12 days. Let that sink in. 12 days. The fuse on this situation is terrifyingly short. So, you might be thinking, hold on. The US military budget is astronomical compared to Iran's. How could Iran possibly stand a chance in a real fight? Well, that's the thing. They have no intention of fighting a conventional war. They don't play by US rules. For decades, they've been writing and perfecting a completely different playbook, an asymmetric one, designed specifically to hit America where it hurts.
So, instead of a head-to-head fight, which they know they'd lose, they get smart. They use their geography to their advantage, threatening to choke off the Strait of Hormuz, where a huge chunk of the world's oil flows. They use proxy armies, like Hezbollah and the Houthis, to fight their battles for them. They build thousands of cheap drones and missiles, and hide them in bases buried deep inside mountains where they can't be touched. And they go after the weak spots, the soft underbelly of their enemies, things like water desalination plants, or those undersea internet cables we all depend on.
And the math behind this strategy is it's insane. Look at these numbers. A single Iranian drone might cost about $20,000, but the American Patriot missile we used to shoot it down, that costs $4 million. Think about that. For the price of shooting down one of their drones, they can send 200 more. You can have the most advanced air defense system in the world, but eventually, you just get overwhelmed by the sheer numbers. It's brutally effective.
And this is the truly terrifying genius of Iran's whole strategy. It takes America's biggest strength in the region, its network of military bases and its powerful allies, and it flips it on its head, turning it into the biggest liability. Those bases that were supposed to guarantee safety, now they're just giant targets. They're the very reason Iran's proxies are attacking these Gulf nations, making America's friends more vulnerable than ever.
So, where does that leave us? It leaves us stuck in this incredibly dangerous stalemate. You've got decades of bad blood, a fundamental clash over how the world's economy works, and a nuclear program that's just days away from a bomb. It's created this vicious feedback loop. The US applies pressure with sanctions, Iran pushes back with its proxies, the US conducts a strike, Iran advances its nuclear program. It just escalates, back and forth. So really, the big question isn't if this 70-year shadow war will finally break out into the open. The real question is when, and what will the cost be for the rest of the world when it does?